This might be an unpopular opinion, but out of all of Mark Tremonti's bands, I think I like Creed the best. But then again, I've never taken the time to really listen to his other bands, which are Alter Bridge and Tremonti. I did a short review of his previous album from 2021 called Marching in Time, which was actually my first short that I ever recorded for this channel. But other than that, I haven't really listened to this band that much. But then, back in December, I did a video of albums that I'm anticipating, and I noticed that he had a new album coming out in January, so I decided to listen to the 4 singles. They weren't really how I remember this band sounded from Marching in Time, and given that I haven't listened to the album in about 3 years, so that piqued my interest in this new album. So in addition to listening to the singles, I decided to do a deep dive into his discography, given it was only a few albums. I listened to all of them. I think my favorite ones were the second and third albums that were called Cauterize from 2015 and Dust from 2016. I noticed something interesting, and that was the 2 albums I just mentioned were pretty heavy albums. The band has a sound that's like thrash metal meets the post-grunge of the 2000s. I don't think there are any other bands that sound like this. Mark Tremonti was able to unite those 2 genres. It seems like they don't go together on paper, but he actually makes it work. I thought that the later album shifts towards more of a alternative and slightly away from the thrash. So that was kind of what I was expecting on this new album. The new album is called The End Will Show Us How. It was released on January 10th, 2025 through Napalm Records. The album has 12 songs. It's 56 minutes long. I will do the same way I've been doing the other reviews. I'm going to talk about the album cover, then the singles, then the music video, then the album tracks, and I will end with my final thoughts and score. The album cover is pretty cool. It was some conceptual art with some bright colors depicting what I imagine to be an angel who appears to be at the time of death. I really like the bright colors, and the image almost appears as if it is a negative of an old photograph that was colorized. It's also much more colorful than the previous album, which seems to be very dark and black or with a single color theme. There were 4 singles, so let me talk about them first. The first track is the title track. This one is a really cool finger-picked guitar playing by Mark Tremonti. Overall, the song is more of an alternative rock song. The music video is well done. It has a cinematic quality with a grainy production value. There's also some really nice cinematography in the video, which shows some post-apocalyptic images. The next single was called One More Time. This one had some of that heaviness, which at first I thought was going to be missing from the album. The song opens with this almost heavy thrash metal style guitar riff. The music video is just a lyric video, so I don't really have much else to say about it. I read a lot of comments of people saying that this track reminded them of the band Sevendust. So now that I think about it, I could hear the similarities. Even though it was kind of a heavy song, it was still more of an alternative rock or a new metal type of song. The next single was called The Mother, the Earth and I. And I think this was my favorite of the singles because it had this darker and trippier type of sound. I could also hear elements of post-punk and early 80s gothic music. The music video is also very well done. It features a lot of trippy photography and beautiful cinematography. The last single was called Just Too Much. I thought this one sounded like grunge meets southern rock. It was unlike anything I remember hearing from this band. As for the music video, it was a performance-based video which had some pretty nice lighting effects. Thought it was very well done. Shout out to the drummer because he really killed it in the song. Let's talk about the album cuts. So far the singles were more alternative rock sounding. There wasn't much of that thrash sound to be heard so far. So let's see if he brings any of that back. First album cut I listened to was Nails. This one was pretty heavy, or at least the intro was, but I felt it was more of a new metal styled riff. The song had a dark atmosphere and Mark's singing was on point. There was one riff right before the guitar solo that was almost like some of the heavy riffs this band was known for, so it was pretty cool. The next album cut was called It's Not Over. This was a softer track with some clean guitars and soulful singing by Mark Tremonti. I would call this one of the ballads on the album. It had a lot of melody as well as some dark and emotional guitar tones. The next track was Tomorrow We Will Fail. This was another one of those alternative rock tracks with elements of 90s grunge. I thought it was a good song and it had a nice thick bass guitar sound. After this is a song called I'll Take My Chances, and this is the first song where they really thrash. And finally, it was the moment I had been waiting for. But for a while, I thought they were going full alternative. but this one had a sound that the band was known for. So out of all the songs, this one brings back the thrash. The song after this was called The Bottom. It was kind of like a dark alternative song with some gothic vibes. The guitar riffs were kind of heavy, but not quite in that thrash metal territory that the previous song went. It was a strong song. The next song was called Live in Fear. This one got pretty heavy. It had that Seven Dust type of sound that people in the comments mentioned that I was talking about with the second single. This was a very fast and heavy, more leaning towards nu metal. The penultimate song was Now That I Made It. This was like Alice in Chains meets Three Doors Down. It had that dark grunge guitar riffs, but also that radio-friendly 2000s rock sound. So that was my impression of this. It was another one that could be put into the ballad category. The last song is All the Wicked Things. This was another one of those dark and laid-back tracks. It was spooky and atmospheric. This one had some cool stop-start guitar riffs, so I thought it was a pretty cool song to end the album. Now for my final thoughts. The band is definitely moving more towards an alternative rock sound, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. I mean, comparatively, their albums were much heavier, the early ones, I mean. There were a lot more of those thrash metal style guitar riffs, but even though this album was lacking that, I think there were only about like 2 or 3 songs that really had those heavy, thrashy riffs. But despite this, the album is very well done. The songs are really good. I think they're just moving in a different direction. But with that being said, I think it's a solid 8 out of 10. Could go up by the end of the month, but for now, that's my score. Check out my review of the previous album, Marching in Time. It's only a short. I'll stick that right here. It's 1 minute long, but watch it anyway. Please give the video a like. It helps me with the YouTube algorithm. Please subscribe if you have not already. I do rock and metal reviews, rankings, and more. Thanks for watching. I will see you in the next one.